Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
Good Thursday morning to one and all. It is 8:07 on News Talk 105.9 WMAL, making sense of the news. This is O'Connor and Company. No, I am not Larry O'Connor. I am Andrew Langer. I'm sitting in with Mercedes Schlapp today, my friend and colleague. Hello, Mercy.
Hello, I love being in company with you.
It's always fun to talk to you. We've
So
got
fun.
so much coming up on the show still. We've got Rob Montz joining us at 8:35. He's a documentary filmmaker. This important story, very relevant given the last week with Claudine Gay, the president of Harvard. Not only is she now a demonstrated plagiarist, holding on to power there. Not only is she equivocating on these issues, she tried to get a professor fired for daring to speak the truth about research regarding BLM. So we're going to talk to Rob Montz about that. Joining us right now is Yesli Vega. She is a member of the Prince William County Board of Supervisors, coming off of a 27-hour public meeting about data centers in Prince William County near Gainesville. Yesli, 27 hours. I mean, what is going on down there?
Yeah, it's the longest meeting to date. It was a really long meeting, and quite frankly, Andrew and Mercedes, it's a really sad day for Prince William County, for our history. We heard from so many county residents who were opposed to this project that literally transforms Prince William County into what will be the largest data center campus in the world.
And I'm looking at the map here. I mean, this is the crazy thing, because right, you read some of the stories on it and you think, well, it's going to be kind of near, a short distance from, like one of the stories is a short distance from the Manassas National Battlefield Park. No, the the site abuts right on the battlefield itself. I mean, that is just crazy.
It is. We have the Democrats here in Prince William County that speak out of both sides of their mouth. They talk about caring about history, wanting to protect the environment, but they do quite literally the opposite. I mean, this is how radical the planning commissioner of one of my colleagues on the board is, where he literally, and this is Supervisor Bodie's planning commissioner, who was the deciding vote here. He's the one that had an opportunity to put an end to this madness, and he obviously didn't by abstaining from voting on this proposal. But his planning commissioner literally called Manassas battlefield, where 4,000 Union soldiers died trying to end slavery, a shrine to the Confederacy, and said he didn't care if the whole battlefield itself went away, because a battlefield where slavery was ended is somehow now offensive to people of color. Again, these are the types of radical belief systems we're dealing here in Prince William County, and it's a sad day for this county. It's a sad day for history, and it should have never happened. But again, these are the individuals that are making these decisions that are going to have damning consequences.
Two questions here. One, will it end up with any sort of court challenges? I know they were saying that the board had violated some state and county rules for public meetings by not giving sufficient notice. And secondly, a lot of these opponents of this digital gateway, they were saying, well, wait a second, this is going to put too much strain on a regional power grid that's already struggling to keep up with the energy demands. So, I mean, these are two really, when you talk about the power grid, this is a big concern for this area in particular, because we know this is going to need more transition lines. I mean, how are we going to deal with this?
Yeah, there's a lot of speculation as to what's going to happen in regards to litigation. We'll see on the days to come whether or not that does manifest itself. But there were a lot of ambiguities with the applications. You're absolutely right. In regards to the infrastructure, where is it going to come from? And we had a lot of questions. And by we, I'm referring to the Republicans on the board. We asked the tough questions. They couldn't provide us a response. And by they, I mean the applicant. You had county staff that recommended denial. The Planning Commission recommended denial. And the reason why they recommended denial is because a lot of these very important questions were not answered. You had so many environmental groups. You had delegates, state senators that are Democrats, I will remind folks that are listening, that oppose this project. And even with all of that, the Democrat majority in Prince William County decided to move forward. I will share with you, Mercedes, that they cited also that this was going to generate a lot of revenue for this county. I've been on the board already for 4 years, and they've raised taxes every single year that I've been on this board. I don't believe that we have a revenue problem. We have a spending problem with Democrats, and even with record revenue, they have not provided the taxpayers with relief. And if I were a betting woman, I would say that this is going to be a reoccurring case because they've shown us time and time again that they can't deliver for working families.
So folks understand where we're talking about here. This is a multiple parcels of land just north of Route 29, sort of where Route 29 and 66 converge. Pageland Road, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, bisects where we are. You've got the Manassas National Battlefield on one side. You've got Conway-Robinson State Forest on the other side. Going up to Sudley Road here, which is sort of curves around the Battlefield Park. I mean, this really is crazy, Yesli. What do we know? I mean, in terms of the problems, it's the power draw. They're eyesores. They don't create jobs. Are they noisy? I mean, what all is the impact going to be if these things do go in?
It's more than 1,700 acres. Just to put it in perspective, that is how much land we're talking about. And I've personally been dealing with it here in a community in my district with an Amazon data center. Yes, they are loud during the construction phase. You have to blast. It causes damages to your property. It destroys it. And granted, they'll say that they'll help and that they'll fix it. And oftentimes they do. But again, it is the responsibility of your elected officials to ensure that these issues don't happen if we can prevent them. And that is the main core of the problems that we're facing here in this county is the human impact, the environmental impact. They're just too great. And I believe that the applicants did not provide sufficient evidence to feel comfortable moving this application along. But again, the 5 Democrats on our board decided that they were going to go ahead and support it, with Supervisor Bodie again being the deciding vote, abstaining. So he goes forward and he supports a motion to denial. But then when another supervisor puts forth a motion to approve all 3 applications, he abstains. I mean, it makes no sense.
Let me ask you this real quick before we let you go. Living where I do down in Williamsburg, we've got parcels of private land in which there are signs up around them saying, no metal detectors allowed. You can't take anything off the ground, even on private land, if it's an historic artifact, because of Virginia's Antiquities Preservation Law, at least if I'm understanding the law correctly. This is a lot of private land, but it's private land that surrounds a national battlefield park. Are you guys looking at all about the Virginia Antiquities Preservation Laws and how they might help your cause here?
All laws were explored. We talked a lot about it in depth during our meeting. But again, it's one of those things where you're putting the cart before the horse.
Right.
If in fact they come across anything, they're going to try to do their very best to preserve, to protect, to call in folks to help out. Again, it shouldn't have happened this way. We should have been diligent and thorough in deciding what was going to happen prior to approving these applications. But again, here we are, and it's thanks to Democrats. So I hope that folks are paying attention, that they stay in the fight, that they stay fired up, because the only way we're going to change things. Change is oftentimes slow, Andrew and Mercedes, but it's going to come, right? And so we have to keep showing up. We have to keep speaking out, and we have to keep holding people accountable.
Well, Yesli Vega, good luck to you. Thank you so very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Merry Christmas and good luck. Oh, that was Yesli Vega. She is a member of the Prince William County Board of Supervisors. We will continue in just a moment, but first it's 8:15 a.m. WMAL traffic and weather every 10
Sense of the news.
Live
from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios.
Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
WMAL, making sense of mainstream media because the double standard is real. Download the WMAL app to stream us for free.
So, Mercy, let's come back to the Hunter Biden issue. Hunter Biden was up on Capitol Hill yesterday. By the way, as we were talking about his artwork, I am going to read this real quick. He has been displaying his artwork with the Georges Berger Gallery. And this is how the Georges Berger Gallery in New York and Berlin, this is how they describe Hunter Biden. A lawyer by profession, Hunter Biden now devotes his energies to the creative arts, bringing innumerable experiences to bear. The results are powerful and impactful paintings ranging from photogenic to mixed media to abstract. Yes, that's him. He's not at the center of one of the most major corruption scandals in the modern era, Mercedes. He's an artist, and therefore he's a misunderstood artist who is being dragged up to Capitol Hill just to tear down his father. Sorry, go ahead. You were about to say something. This
PR campaign to revamp, Hunter Biden's reputation and image. I mean, you just gotta love it. It's like, oh, he's a lawyer, and he's an artist, and he's so great, and it's just it's crazy. It's insane.
And talking about
he's getting away with it, quite frankly.
Talking about and according to Moby and Moby's girlfriend, talking about Hunter Biden's real peccadillos, that's dehumanizing him. So he was subpoenaed. And that's an important thing, by the way, guys. Here's a handy tip from Andrew Langer this morning on O'Connor and Company. If you get subpoenaed by Congress, don't defy the subpoena. How about that? How about it's important that you go up and you testify. And there's, in this instance, he goes up anyway. He doesn't go to testify. Eric Swalwell helps him set up a press conference on the Senate side of the Hill, which is also interesting that it was over there on the Senate side of the Hill. And Hunter Biden comes out and says, something. Let's oh boy, I want to find this. Here we go. Yes, cut number 31 is the real clip that we all have to pay attention to. Let's go ahead and play that, Michael. 31.
And in the depths of my addiction, I was extremely irresponsible with my finances. But to suggest that as grounds for an impeachment inquiry is beyond the absurd. It's shameless. There is no evidence to support the allegations that my father was financially involved in my business, because it did not happen.
This is like Charles Manson coming out and saying, something. It wasn't that I murdered these people. I was just really irresponsible in how I managed my cult. That's this is just great. But again, the point is, there's the pivot here, right? For years, literally years now, and he's right. Folks have been looking at this for quite a long time. The word has been that Joe Biden was never involved in his son's business, right? That was I never talked to his clients. I was never involved in his business. The pivot yesterday was there is no evidence that my father was financially involved in the business. And it's a subtle but very important difference, isn't it, Mercy?
Well, Hunter keeps moving the goalpost. And what's shocking to me is why any lawyer would have allowed Hunter Biden to give that little statement. Just because I think it puts him in a legally precarious situation. And I think, for him to basically say, okay, well, my dad wasn't financially involved. Well, yeah, but he was taking phone calls. You were on an Air Force Two with him to go to China. Biden met with his associates, and then you have these Democrats that come out and say, well, goodness, well, why didn't they investigate this when he was vice president?
Right.
You know what I mean? Why is it coming out now? And I think it's because for so long, and that's a good question, Andrew. Why do you think it is coming out now as opposed to back then when he was vice president?
Well, because simply we didn't know, right? This is the whole issue of investigation. Is the stuff comes out, you start to look at it. Nobody was really paying attention to what Joe Biden was doing when he was vice president of the United States because it's Joe Biden. Remember, even Barack Obama, said that never underestimate Joe Biden's capacity to mess things up. He used the F word.
Yes.
And so it's just one of those things where the expectation is X, and the other part of it, of course, is we were all looking at Hillary Clinton. I wish we'd investigated more about what Hillary Clinton was doing in the same vein, or Hillary Clinton's team was doing in the same vein while she was Secretary of State. We didn't even investigate that. So here's where we are. The other question in all of this, right, Mercy, is what does Joe Biden know about his son defying this subpoena? And has Joe Biden had conversations about his son's strategy? I can't imagine that Team Biden has not been intimately involved, at least behind the scenes.
Yeah, I don't see how they're not.
Yeah.
I mean, but they can get away with the private conversations between Joe Biden and Hunter Biden, which is exactly what Karine Jean-Pierre said. She's not going to get into these conversations that they're having between Joe Biden and the son. So, look, I'm assuming that he has to be getting some guidance, because I think the White House wants to avoid problems. Like they want to separate themselves from Hunter Biden, because it is getting complicated, and it really is the White House counsel who's pushing out the arguments being made that why are the Republicans moving with impeachment? So they're very involved. I would believe they're involved in this process, but God only knows.
And fundamentally, Hunter Biden does not want to appear because he doesn't want to have to answer the question, who's the big guy? In your text messages and your emails, who's the big guy that you're referring to? We've got so much more to get to. It's 8:23 on WMAL.
It's Larry for New Look Home.
Now,
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It is 8:37 on News Talk 105.9 WMAL, making sense of the news. Good Thursday to one and all. This is O'Connor and Company. No, I'm not Larry O'Connor. I am Andrew Langer, in for Larry today. Sitting alongside is Mercedes Schlapp. Good morning, Mercy.
Goodness, it's been like the fastest hours of radio.
Yeah,
We've just been knocking it out. It's been
time
amazing.
flies when you're having fun, having good conversations.
I know.
Plus, again, on these slow news days, right, we could just sit here and talk. It's all good. It's all of a piece. Listen, I'm very excited to bring on our next guest. His name is Rob Montz. He's a filmmaker. He's the CEO of Good Kid Productions. We've spent a lot of time in the last week talking about Claudine Gay, who is the president of Harvard, now getting supported by at least one of the two governance boards at Harvard University, despite her testimony before Congress last week, despite the allegations against her about plagiarism. But we have to talk about the governance here and the double standards that progressives have. Rob has this film out about a professor named Roland Fryer. Rob, talk to us about Professor Fryer. What happened? Why did you go ahead and make this film?
What's up, guys? Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, and people can see the documentary for free on our YouTube channel at Good Kid Productions, or follow me on Twitter at Rob Montz, and they can. There's plenty of stuff on there about it.
Going to follow you right now.
So basically, you need to think of Roland Fryer and Claudine Gay as exact opposites,
Okay.
where Roland Fryer was born into profound economic disadvantage. He's a poor part of Florida. He's actually instantly abandoned by his mother at birth. He's raised by his father, who is a employment-challenged career criminal who actually goes to jail when Roland is in high school. Right. So by all accounts, Roland should be destined to a life of economic marginalization and irrelevance. Right. But somehow Roland, through pure intellectual accomplishment, is able to pull himself from there to be the youngest professor to ever secure tenure at Harvard University.
Wow.
Right? He's this genius black economist at Harvard. And when he's there, he decides to take his brain power and considerable economic resources and tackle some of the most thorny issues of race in America, right? Things like, is the phenomenon of acting white real? Are black people more likely to be shot by cops than white people are?
Right.
Or what is it about certain charter schools that enables them to actually radically improve black academic output, while a lot of public schools that have ample amounts of support from the Democratic coalition just fail over and over and over again? And a couple years ago, his career was suddenly cut short. And we're told that it's because he was a sexual predator. He got ensnared in one of these opaque Title IX sexual harassment proceedings, and suddenly he basically receives the worst possible punishment you can receive as a professor, short of someone revoking your tenure, which is the kind of part of the academic job market that let people keep their jobs for life.
Yeah.
He's exiled from campus. They take all of his money. He's branded a sexual predator. He can't find a job anywhere else, and we're told it's because he's a sexual predator.
Right.
We released this documentary, which basically blows up that narrative as a cynical cover story. And we show that his punishment is actually ideological retribution because he refused to toe the line of what it means to be a good black person and the Harvard faculty.
Wow. I mean, Mercy, your thoughts here. I mean, listen, you and I are watching people get canceled right and left.
Right. And look, I think in this case, the fact that Harvard, it seems like they didn't follow their own guidelines of offering workplace sensitivity training. Instead, they try to take down Fryer. But then you look at what's happening with the current president, Harvard president Claudine Gay, who it's been unveiled that basically that she has plagiarized parts of her dissertation. The mere fact that she did such a poor job at this congressional testimony where she wouldn't push back against saying that genocide of the Jews is just completely wrong, and yet she's getting a pass. Why do you think there's this difference of treatment here?
So think about this, though. So Roland Fryer, as an actual African American who suffered profound economic disadvantage, right? Claudine Gay, superficially, is also as black as Roland is, but her actual life biography is one of enormous privilege. She's the daughter of a Haitian engineer. She lives in a comfortable upper middle class existence. She goes to Exeter and then Stanford and then Harvard, where she rapidly ascends the academic job market. She's given tenure at a very young age. She's given all sorts of accolades. But I found this out a year ago when I looked into her. Her actual academic output, yes, is obviously rife with plagiarism, but it's also completely irrelevant. It's totally intellectually hollow. She makes no contributions. All she does is she engages in the theatrics that's expected of you if you're an aspiring black academic, which is to talk about economic marginalization and victimization. And the way you do that, that's how you get moral authority. That's also how you get showered with professional accolades. She contributes nothing. Complete academic lightweight who then goes into the administration at Harvard. And when she's there, she is a proud champion of this elaborate and expensive DEI apparatus, right, where it's all about hosting endless committees about inclusion, it's about having endless initiatives about diversity. It's unclear what any of this actually has to do with advancing the well-being of actual poor black people. Here in Charles City, Virginia, where I live, they haven't mentioned to me how these Harvard inequality initiatives have boosted their ability to make a living. But, it's all the theatrics for mostly the rich white people who get to decide who ascends the administration at Harvard University. And she plays the game. She's excellent at navigating the great gray bureaucracy at Harvard University. And she is one of the two people we finger as being absolutely instrumental in Roland Fryer's downfall. She's not president at the time. She's kind of higher up in the administration. But she not only takes that recommendation for him to receive workplace sensitivity training and turns it into career termination. We found out she actually had gone to the president of Harvard University and requested that they revoke Roland's tenure protections, which we looked into it, has not happened in the last 100 years.
That's
it never happens.
Rob,
she asked for Roland gets saved because it would have been just a bridge too far to do something like that.
Rob, unfortunately, we have to leave it there. I have tweeted out a link to the documentary. You can find it on YouTube. Rob Montz, thank you so very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, guys.
We've got more coming up. Listen, tomorrow we got the weaponization of the Endangered Species Act with Rob Gordon. Ben's Chili Bowl celebrating a milestone. Happy early birthday to Virginia Ali. We're going to be joined by Nizam Ali from Ben's Chili Bowl tomorrow. Of course, we got Commanders Talk. Want to thank Mercedes Schlapp for sitting in with me today. Thank you, Heather. Thank you, Michael. It is 9 o'clock right here on WMAL.
WMAL FM, Woodbridge, Washington. A Cumulus Media.